Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to tonight's edition of Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar. It is, of course, Friday Night Live on Friday, the 18th of December, 2020. And I'm your host, Abdul Akbar, and you're joining us from Luton, Inspire FM and surrounding areas tonight, and also from our partner stations across the nation. Of course, we're on Facebook Live as well, on facebook.com/Inspire FM Luton. Coming up on tonight's program, we've got an action-packed show for you. We're going to be talking about the latest news on the COVID vaccine. That's coming up in a moment. We'll also be talking about Kashmir and talking to the Labour friends of Kashmir, whoever they are. But Councillor Wajid Khan is going to be joining us for that in a moment, in about half an hour's time. We're also talking about another problem within the Labour Party, and that's the problem of Islamophobia. We've heard about the xenophobia in the Labour Party. It looks like there is a problem of Islamophobia as well. That's coming up in about an hour's time on tonight's program. And finally, we'll be finishing off the show talking about grooming gangs with resident guests on the panel, Rehana Faisal, who's, as you know, a local activist, and also Peter Adams from Faces. I thought that almost said something else on my notes, but looking forward to speaking to Peter Adams as well in a little bit of time. But right now on the program, we've actually got an amazing lineup for all of you, and it is an amazing lineup because we do have a really interesting topic at hand, and that topic is all about the coronavirus vaccine. But before I go on to my guests to talk about that particular topic, I've got Dr. Adil Ali Khan, no stranger to this program on this topic. We'll be going to him in a moment. But before I do that, let me go ahead and welcome my very special co-host on tonight's program. It is Zaffar. Zaffar, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam ji. How are you? Long time no see or speak.
Alhamdulillah, Zaffar. I'm doing well. Zaffar, I've got a question for you, if I may, which is, are you going to be taking the coronavirus vaccine as soon as it comes out, as soon as you're eligible?
Yes, you put me on the spot there, haven't you? I would say yes, because I fall into the vulnerable category. For that reason, yes, I do. Yeah, I'm afraid so. Can't deny it.
No, I'm winding you up, Zaffar. The reason why I say that, because
grey hair and all that,
as you know, and you know this much better than I do, which is there's a lot of misinformation out there right now about the coronavirus vaccine, the Pfizer jab, lots of misinformation going around on Muslim, on Asian WhatsApp groups talking about this vaccine and saying how dangerous it is and saying that it is not good for the general public. And I just want to make sure that everyone listening to tonight's program here on Friday Night Live, Inspire FM, going out to the nation, especially through our partner stations, we do want to make sure that we are giving out the right information. And I'm here to tell you right now that don't believe the rubbish that's on social media right now. There's a lot of rubbish that's on social media that's effectively saying that the coronavirus vaccine is not safe for people. And I'm not going to, sit on radio and talk gobbledygook. I've done my research. I am not a chemist. I am not a doctor, but I am an educated professional, and I've read all the papers there are to read on RNA vaccines, on mRNA vaccines, and I will tell you now that this vaccine has gone through all the normal rigor and checks of any other vaccine that we use today, like the flu jab, the annual flu jab, etc. However, it's just happened in record speed, and some of the trials were slightly overlapped in order to save time and save lives. But don't take my word for it, because we've got some experts on the line right now. We've got Dr. Adil Ali Khan. He's joining us on the line very shortly. And we've also got Khadija Malik, who's the portfolio holder for public health and commissioning. She's going to give us the latest update on the Tier 3 situation in Luton. As you know, that's kicking off as well, where Luton, the situation in Bedfordshire and Luton is getting quite serious. So we need to respect that and respect the restrictions that are out there right now. But let me start off by going to Dr. Adil Ali Khan. Dr. Adil Ali Khan, what say you when you hear that the vaccine and you hear these anti-vaxxers, this rubbish that's going out on WhatsApp and social media, on Facebook, on TikTok and other social media outlets, that the vaccine is not safe? What do you say to those people spreading this misinformation?
Well, Assalamu alaikum, first of all.
Al-Salam.
One thing I would say, that the target group that was aimed at to begin with has been the 80s and over, as you know. And one thing you've got to realize is that the reason why we have so many people who are 80 and over is precisely because of previous successful vaccination programs. And that is a medical fact, end of. So for people to say, look, oh, vaccination programs, this, people do not realize how much vaccination programs have changed our lives totally. Totally. This particular vaccine, yes, has been made very, very fast, but it has been scrutinized from day one, from the day of its first conception. It has been absolutely scrutinized, which other vaccines have not. Secondly, because it's made in an entirely different way, we are able to actually manufacture this vaccine very, very quickly because we do not have to grow the virus. So this is why we can manufacture this vaccine very, very quickly. And all the added components within the actual vaccine are inert. They have been used in the past. So to say that, this vaccine has never been used, you don't know anything about it, it's frankly ludicrous, It has been used on thousands and thousands of people safely. I've had the vaccine myself yesterday. My mother has had the vaccine yesterday. My sister has had the vaccine yesterday. My wife and one of my daughters has had the vaccine yesterday. So that's how much trust I have in it personally.
Dr. Saab, I need to ask you a question.
Yes.
Sort me out with the vaccine, bro. I need the vaccine. Can I meet you in a corner somewhere and you can just quickly pop it in my arm? I know I'm just 40. I'm not 80. Can we sort something out?
Come and live with me. Register at my address. All right.
No, I'm messing. But I do want to respect the restrictions and the fact that we only have a certain number of doses in the country at the moment, for the most vulnerable or for those who are frontline workers, like your good self, Dr. Saab, which I'm sure is why you've taken the vaccine, because you are vulnerable, because you see patients every day. And I really appreciate that. But let me go to, before I come back to you, Dr. Saab, on some more feedback on the vaccine and how that administration is going. From your perspective in your surgery. Let me go to Khadija Malik, Councillor Khadija Malik, who's also on the line as well. Khadija, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Wa alaikum salam, alhamdulillah, I'm good, how are you?
Good to see you, sister. And sister, I want to ask you, first of all, what's the current situation with lockdown and the escalation of the tearing in Luton right now? Are we in tier 3 right now in Luton?
Well, not precisely right now, but we will be from midnight. We'll be in tier 3. Unfortunately, it's not where we want to be. It affects our businesses locally, our economy, our residents that live here. So the impact is on everybody that lives here. So I think in terms of that, we fought really hard with central government to allow the businesses that really have been affected have been the restaurants in terms of having to close again. Luton has been really good in terms of them complying. I've actually been out myself to visit these premises, and they've really adapted to what changes that have had to come into place. We know that these changes have come very late in the day. They've been told with less warnings. And the communities have always come together. And I fully support the doctors in Luton. I personally know many of them myself as family friends. And I have a lot of conversations with them in terms of moving forward with the vaccine, with people in Luton to take it. Numbers are increasing in Luton, and that is concerning. However, we do know it is winter. We are going to have people that have cold and flus as well. And all I really urge people is to go out. If you haven't got symptoms, we've got 2, Lucy Farm that is doing the rapid testing, Farley Hill, and we will be having the library carrying that out from Monday. So I really urge people without symptoms. I mean, we've been able to pick them up in Lucy Farm. Those people without symptoms that have gone in there, and we've been able to identify and then send them through to have the proper test done and isolate, and their families being able to stop, because they're people that may still be spreading it, not knowing that they're carrying the virus. So I think it's so important to make sure that you go out, if you've got symptoms, to get tested and then to isolate. And I think that's where some of the confusion in terms of people not understanding, you know, if I'm isolating, I'm only going to the shop, or I'm only going to the neighbor's house, or I'm only doing, and I can't reiterate that so much, that if you're isolating, please isolate, stay at home. And if it's the whole family, then, you know, if it's just you that needs to isolate, then try and do that in a room on your own and away from other family members that are in there, especially if you've got vulnerable adults, elderly within the household. It's just, you know, that hand, face, space, you know, ventilation, keeping your windows open. It's so important. Just that, I know we as Muslims, you know, we're always praying, we're all washing, we're always doing our wudu, you know, and, you know, that's the factor that probably helps us within our lives. I know myself, you know, whereas I know it's winter, you don't want to be doing wudu so many times, but I'd rather be doing that if I know I'm washing my hands, you know, and I'm out there doing that. So in terms of that, you know, my message really is to people to urge them. I know that Boris is changing his messages to us constantly, confusing people. And all I'd really urge people is, because we don't know, I can't predict what Boris is going to say to us in the next couple of days and how he's going to change. I don't know how he makes his, or how he's doing things. But all I can really urge our communities and everybody in the community is really to be cautious and really, really think about, you know, do you want your loved ones around? You know, you've got to be responsible in your own actions in what you're doing. You know, decide.
Well said.
Go out and meet people. Do you want to see your family? I know I've lost loved ones. I've lost many through this, you know, and I know how heartbreaking it really is. Not being able to.
Quick question for you, Councillor. We'll come back to you in a moment, actually, because I want to get the. Thank you for that. Very well said, Councillor Khadija Malik. Let me get Dr. Adil Ali Khan back on the line as well. So, Dr. Adil Ali Khan, in terms of people who are on the fence with regard to getting the vaccine, we reckon that we know it's safe. We know it's gone through all the rigor that all vaccines have gone through in the past. It's just happened a bit faster. Obviously, we know the United Kingdom was the first country in the world to actually approve the vaccine, which is fantastic news as well. And we know that other countries have also followed, not just with the Pfizer jab, but also with the Mrna jab. And the Oxford vaccine is probably going to follow very soon as well in terms of its approval. What is the process of taking the coronavirus vaccine, Dr. Adil Ali Khan? If I was to come into your surgery as an 80-plus-year-old or a frontline worker, what is it? Is it a normal jab, or do I have one shot or two shots? How does it work? Over to you.
Okay, so I mean, basically, you will be invited by your surgery to come in for a specific appointment. All the information is given you beforehand. You have to sign a consent form, of course. You're given one jab. Then you are asked to sit in a reception area just for 15 minutes, just to make sure absolutely everything is okay with you and there aren't any problems. Then you'll be able to go home, and you're given an appointment before you go. You're given another appointment for 3 weeks for you to return to have your second dose. Okay, so after your second dose, I think approximately 2 weeks after your second dose, you'll have 95% cover. Now, at the end of the day, people who don't have the dose, these jabs, will not have cover. And what we need is many people in the community to take up the vaccine, purely because that will develop a type of herd immunity. And this is the only hope we have in the future to get some sort of semblance of normality that we had before. Otherwise, we're all going to be yo-yoing in and out of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 indefinitely. And this is no way for us to run a country at all. The only other option, if we do not have the vaccine, is to let this virus run through our communities, and we will lose more loved ones. I've lost 3 of my members of my family to this, and it has been heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, and other people who were listening to the show have done as well. And until you realize that loss, I don't think you realize how much this vaccine, this coronavirus can affect you, and how much this vaccine will give us hope for the future.
Very clear, Dr. Saab.
I guess it's really sad to hear that you've lost your family members, and I'm sure Khadija Malik, I think you've lost family members as well. It's really, really tragic. But I guess from a program point of view, for a sense of balance, I think we need to perhaps ask the questions about the some of the concerns. It's easy to rubbish some of the concerns that you see in WhatsApp, and I think there are people who do feel that there are risks. So I think it's important to actually sort of talk about those and then trying to sort of, put them in the public's frame as well. So there is obviously the key one that people talk about is the fact that this vaccine there's a new technique used for it, right? This is a new frontier, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and let's go into that, Zaffar Saab. Yeah, let's go into that because Zaffar Saab, excellent question. But before we go into the mRNA piece, let's go into the RNA piece. Let's go into one question that I have for the Dr. Saab, which is, Dr. Saab, does this vaccine contain a microchip that will track me?
This is a question that comes up over and over again. And it does.
I know it's funny.
And it does. Now listen.
No one's going to track me.
Listen, if you're wondering, if you're in fear of being tracked, for God's sakes, don't carry an iPhone. You're being tracked.
Exactly. Exactly. We're being tracked on a mobile phone. Exactly.
Absolutely. If you're worried about them infiltrating you with a microchip, anybody could do that with the existing flu jab. They could do that with the medications you're taking every single day of your life. They don't need to formulate a vaccine that's taken billions of pounds and dollars to make, to do that at all. They could do it if they wanted to anyway.
Very, very clear. So we've established that the vaccine does not contain anything microscopic in terms of a microchip that's going to track me. Okay, fine. That's one myth busted. The second one, Dr. Saab, is the one that Zaffar Saab mentioned quite rightly. It's an excellent question Zaffar Saab posed, which is this vaccine contains a new type of technology. It's not like the traditional vaccines that we take, like the annual flu jab, which is grown on, chicken eggs, and then you get a small dose of the actual flu inserted into you, and your body builds antibodies to fight the annual flu. This contains something called mRNA. Does the mRNA mess around with my bodily DNA, or does it come out of my system? Over to you.
It does not mess around with your DNA at all. Not at all. So basically, the mRNA it's basically a chemical, and you develop antibodies to that. Now, the mRNA is actually part of the building blocks of the spiky bit you see on the coronavirus. So that spiky bit is what the coronavirus needs to attach to your cells. Okay, so what the mRNA is part of the building blocks for that spiky bit, and by injecting those chemicals into you, what you will develop antibodies to that. So it disables the coronavirus completely. It stops it from actually attaching to your cells and working in that way.
Very clear. And Dr. Saab, I actually spoke to a very learned chemist friend of mine, and he actually said that a lot of the mRNA actually comes out of your system within 48 hours as well. So it actually gets flushed out quite quickly. So whilst your body is building the antibodies for this, fake or kind of spoof protein that you've put into your body, what's actually part of the vaccine comes out of your system through the natural processes in your body, but it doesn't disrupt your natural DNA. It doesn't mutate your DNA, etc., correct?
Absolutely correct. Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
All it does is build up an immune response. So when the coronavirus does come, your body recognizes the attachments and prevents it from attaching to your cells and working.
Very clear, Dr. Saab. Thank you for clarifying that. So the next question is specifically about the long-term effects of mRNA vaccines. And I think here is definitely a genuine area that we don't know much about, because this is a new type of shot, a new type of technology in vaccines. But what can you say about the long-term effects of mRNA vaccines? Because a lot of anti-vaxxers are saying we don't know how the body will respond to this technology over the course of 5, 10, 20 years. What goes through your mind, and how do you justify that in your mind, Dr. Saab?
Okay, so you've got to be absolutely honest. If you look at the vaccine per se, if you say, what are the long-term effects of this vaccine? Nobody knows 100%. And that's a fact. That's a fact. But if you take the individual components of what's in that vaccine, they have been used before. But as you say, the actual mRNA, okay, is excreted from your body. And that is excreted by your body. And all the other components of the vaccine have been used in the past. So if you look at those components individually, okay, they have been used in the past, and they have not caused any serious consequences. But if you put them all together, Pfizer have said nobody knows exactly what the long-term consequences are. But if you look at the balance of probability, the long-term consequences are not very serious at all.
Dr. Adil, I'm not obviously a scientist or biologist, but whenever you eat something, right, whether it's meat or vegetables or whatever, right, I guess the building blocks of what makes up that meat is contained in it as well. So I suspect the RNAs and DNAs are in the system, or in the food that you eat, or not.
Yeah, I mean, when you eat something, yes, you do. And basically what you're doing is when you're consuming, let's say, protein, you're using that protein to use for your building blocks, okay?
Yeah.
But the mRNA within this virus is not used for any building blocks at all. Our body does not recognize it as a building block, and we will not use it as a building block for ourselves individually. What we're going to be using it for is to mount an immune response against it.
Sure. Like you would get if you ate something which your body wasn't familiar with, and you get a response.
I mean, don't forget, when you're being injected with other vaccines, live vaccines, you are being infiltrated with millions of DNA, and nobody worries about that at all. Nobody
exactly.
Worries about that.
Plus one. Thank you for that, Dr. Adil Ali Khan. Let me quickly go back to Councillor Khadija Malik, who's also been on the line with us, giving us some great advice on the situation in Luton and surrounding areas going into Tier 3 from midnight tonight on Friday, the 18th of December. Councillor Khadija Malik, are you going to be taking the vaccine when it comes out, when you're eligible for it?
Well, when I'm eligible for it, yes. The only thing is I have allergies, but I'm not sure. So with the advice of my doctor.
Yeah, I mean, you should be okay. Honestly, like there was a small allergic response with a couple of people who took it on the first day. I read in the newspaper. Dr. Adil Ali Khan, anyone who has allergies, should they be concerned about this particular Pfizer jab?
Okay, the people who are excluded from having the Pfizer jab are those people who've got a history of very severe allergies in the past. We're talking life-threatening allergies. People who've used EpiPens, these are adrenaline pens, which if they do get a severe nut allergy, they almost die, and they have to inject themselves with adrenaline in order to reverse that allergy. So those are the type of allergies we're looking at, which would contraindicate you from having the vaccine.
Very clear. Very clear.
Other people who'd be excluded, of course, ladies who are pregnant or those who are breastfeeding as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Farzana Chowdhury, for your message as well, saying thank you for calling out the absurd and ridiculous conspiracy theories about the vaccine. Farzana, you've hit the nail on the head. Well, let me go ahead and thank Dr. Adil Ali Khan, lead GP from Kingsway Health Centre and chair of the local GP consortium of the local consortium there in Luton. And Councillor Khadija Malik, thank you to you as well, portfolio holder of public health and commissioning. May you both remain healthy and strong and look forward to seeing you in person in the new year, inshallah. Take care of yourselves, lady and gent. Take care. Assalamu alaikum. Listeners, this is Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar, and Zaffar Iqbal Sir. We've just been talking about the corona vaccine, and I'm going to make this very, very clear to all of you. Don't hesitate to take it. Don't put your mums and dads at risk. Please put them forward. If they're 80 plus, go down to your local GP and make sure they get an appointment so that you can protect them from this deadly disease. My brother just come out of hospital himself. He was very critical, and he's saying he was one of the anti-vaxxers. And now he's saying to everyone he knows, guys, make sure you take the vaccine because this thing is a killer. This is Abdul Akbar on Friday Night Live. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned. Don't go away.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.
I'm Aaron, creative producer of Ricky Cycle, an interactive live show for children, and this is Inspire FM 105.1.
Whatever your event, your perfect venue is Grand Park Hall on Park Street in Luton. Catering for up to 700 people, surrounded by 300 car park spaces, Grand Park Hall has everything to make your conference, corporate event, akika, birthday party, mendi, engagement, wedding, or other celebration a first-class success. Grand Park Hall's catering team offer HMC certified food, and the events team can take care of everything: car hire, wedding planning, entertainment, and organising segregated weddings too. For details, click on grandparkhall.co.uk or call Boktir Hussain on Luton 484109.
Attention for landlords. क्या आप चाहते हैं कि आपकी प्रॉपर्टी जल्द से जल्द किराए पर लग जाए और आपकी प्रॉपर्टी की 100% देखभाल के साथ साथ किराया भी पर वक्त मिले? तो मैरीगोल्ड रेजिडेंशियल से राब्ता कीजिए। मैरीगोल्ड रेजिडेंशियल अब प्रॉपर्टी की खरीदो फरोख्त का काम भी करते हैं। अगर आप अपनी प्रॉपर्टी रेंट पर खरीदना या बेचना चाहते हैं तो आज ही फोन कीजिए 01582 617 617 251 Dunstable Road, Luton. Terms and conditions apply.
AK Windows South Limited, manufacturers and installers of high-quality UPVC windows and doors, bifold doors, composite doors, conservatories, porches, skypods, fascias, guttering, and much, much more. We specialize in double glazing and triple glazing using the best German profile. If you want quality at affordable prices, AK Windows is the place to go. If your house needs a facelift, you know who to trust. For a free quote, call AK Windows today on 01582 483 777 or visit us at Unit 10E, Britannia Estate, Leagrave Road, Luton.
Ambulance emergency. Is the patient breathing?
It takes a team to save lives, and with over 1 million emergency calls every year, that team needs to be exceptional. At the East of England Ambulance Service, we want you to join us to help deliver outstanding care to our patients. Whether you become an emergency ambulance crew member, work on non-emergency patient transport, or take on one of the many supporting roles we offer, from call handling or HR to ambulance dispatching or education, you'll be working with us to save lives in the community. Why not come and join us? You can visit www.eastam.nhs.uk or search East of England Ambulance Service for our vacancies.
TheStudyCentre.co.uk is Luton's newest tuition centre and flexi school, providing hundreds of structured courses from Key Stage 1 to GCSEs. Subjects include English, Maths, Science, Islamic Arts, Quran, Arabic, Islamic Studies, plus many more. Classes are taught in person or online, daytime or evenings, weekdays and weekends from as little as £6 an hour. Register now at TheStudyCentre.co.uk and let's get learning.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. By the token of time through the ages, verily mankind is in loss, except those who have faith and do righteous deeds, and join together in the mutual teaching of truth and of patience and constancy.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 6:30.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to part 2 of tonight's edition of Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar, and Zaffar Iqbal Sab. It is Friday, the 18th of December, 2020, and you're listening to Friday Night Live. We're beaming out to the good people of Luton and surrounding areas tonight, and also to the good people of Sheffield, Derby, Nottingham, and Peterborough through our partner stations across the nation. We're also on Facebook Live, so check it out on facebook.com/InspireFM Luton, where you can see my shakal live on the radio. Zaffar Saab not showing his camera. I want to see Zaffar Saab's shakal as well, but maybe he's in his pajamas.
You can see my you can see my shakal, but you can't see anything else.
Zaffar Saab, are you in your vest, or are you wearing a vest?
I'm not right, but I'm just saving the rest of the family the embarrassment in case they walk past, etc. So.
And listen, so I don't mind if you haven't trimmed your moustache.
I haven't. You're right. I haven't.
Or whatever. It's okay. It's all right. Don't worry. It's just one of those things during coronavirus time. Everyone knows that on camera, it's all good, but everything below the camera, anything goes these days.
Yeah, indeed. And you're sort of trimmed and proper for the show. That's good enough, I guess.
Chalo, we have to get suited and booted up for our people here on the radio and on Facebook Live. But anyway, it's all good. So, what did you make of that last topic? Interesting topic about the vaccine. But, one thing that's really frustrated me is, very good people that I know, brothers that I know, who have forwarded me lots of anti-vaccine stuff. And, I've had debates with good brothers, educated brothers saying, don't take the vaccine, bro. Don't do it, bro. Don't give it to your parents, bro. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Don't you know that right now we're going into a tier 3 lockdown in very populated areas? Luton, you heard the councillor mention tonight, as of midnight tonight, Luton's going into tier 3. Wales is going to begin a lockdown on the 28th of December. And, Scottish government, English government is not ruling out any kind of lockdown at the moment. Boris Johnson said today he's hoping to avoid another national lockdown in England, but he's admitting that COVID cases have increased very much in recent weeks. It is chaos, right, Zaffar Saab?
It is. I think some, like the Dr. Adil said, some of it is rubbish. Some of this stuff about tracking and all of that, I think it's far-fetched. I think there's lots of different technology. As you know, we're both in technology. There's lots of different technologies that can track you. Right? It doesn't need to have DNA inside your body to be able to track you, unless they want to keep measuring your temperature now and then. Yeah,
I don't know what it is with us Muslims, bro. Us Muslims love a nice, healthy conspiracy. Anything that's conspiratorial, we're going to say, oh man, we're going to start forwarding it out to all our WhatsApp groups. We like a nice conspiracy, I think, as a community.
It's different. But having said that, I think you got to weigh up. For me, you got to weigh up the balance, right? You have to balance up the risk of getting sick and the risk of sort of using this to protect yourself. So to me, I think the risk of getting the infection and getting very serious complications with it is probably more, right, than anything that you might get from the side effects, etc. You might get from the vaccine. So I think there's hesitation. There's hesitation whenever there's something new. So I guess that's inherent in everybody. But I guess once the momentum gets going, everybody will just jump on board, I think.
So I want to give the full balance of the discussion we're having, because one listener, thank you listener for writing into us on WhatsApp, is saying, Salam brother, sorry to say that you're calling this all rubbish, but done my research as well, and I feel the opposite, that it's not safe in terms of what we've been told by the government, and the radio and TV is talking rubbish, because I can't believe after 9 months coming out with a vaccine which is 100% safe, and to find it disrespectful from you calling this rubbish. I'm sorry, brother, but even a shampoo before it comes in the market, it takes up to 5 years. This is what I'm talking about, bro. And I respect this, brother. Really, I say this to you. Jazakallah khair for reaching out, brother from Germany, who's saying that the vaccine, is coming from, the European market, and even they haven't approved it yet. But I guarantee you, brother, I'll guarantee you, I'm not a betting person, but I'll guarantee you, Germany will approve the Pfizer vaccine. It's a 99.9% chance, just like the US has a few days ago, just like the other countries have this week. England started it, everybody else will approve it. Why? Because it's gone through all the trials that any vaccine goes through. Yeah, any vaccine that's gone into our arms over the last 10, 20, 30 years of our lives have gone through what we call phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials. Right, brother? You've done your research. Now, the phase 1 trial starts off with a small number of people, and then the greater the phase, the more people they put the vaccine into. And what do they look for? They look for people with allergies. They look for people who are responding negatively. They look for deaths, okay? And I'll tell you now, there's been 0 deaths as a result of the vaccines that have been approved so far. The data is out there for everyone to scrutinize. Some of the leading scientists in the world have said that this data is sound, it is safe for human consumption. Who are we to turn around and say this is not safe? I assure you, I've done my research as well, and it is safe. And you know, we don't know what effects anything is going to have on us in 6 months' time. So there's going to be lots of doubt about this, but I assure you, if this is a question of giving this vaccine to your 80-year-old or 80-year-old father or mother, don't hesitate. Take them down to the general practitioner's surgery and get them that Pfizer jab. Why? Because the benefits outweigh the risks in this case, and that's all I'm going to say. But obviously, do your own research, everyone. Don't take Abdul Akbar's word for this. Do your own research, but please ignore the rubbish that's out there on social media, especially some of those lovely, nicely made videos that are out there that are saying the vaccine is dangerous. The vaccine was made in 9 months. Yes, it was. Actually, the vaccine, guess what, brothers and sisters, you may not know this, but the vaccine was actually turned around within a few days. As soon as they had got the genome of the original virus, they turned the vaccine around within a few days. So within literally 4 or 5 days, most science labs across the world that are working on this, including Pfizer, including Oxford vaccine, they had a vaccine ready. What took the last 9 months, 10 months for it to come out was all the trials, was all the due diligence, was all the protocols. So we need to understand the process that these vaccines have gone through, and then we need to put the lives of our loved ones first. And I tell you now, it's safer to take the vaccine and get yourself protected up to 95% efficacy versus going through the horrors and the risk of coronavirus and the potential for death. My brother had coronavirus. 2 of my brothers had coronavirus in London. One just came out of hospital. He was an anti-vaxxer. He was telling me to make sure my father does not get the vaccine. And, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala somehow gave him the coronavirus because of his interactions. Maybe he was unfortunate, but he got the coronavirus. And the doctor said, you are lucky to be alive, because if you had not come into hospital, by the way, he was refusing to go into hospital. He was like, no way, bro. He's coughing on the phone to me. And he was saying, no way, bro. I am not going into hospital because, man, you don't come back out if you go into the hospital. They're killing you in the hospitals. I'm like, what are you talking about? The hospitals have all the equipment. They have steroids that they can give you that actually will help you fight and stop the response that your lungs, your immune system may have, and calm you down. And guess what? Now, the same brother of mine, this is my blood brother, who was in hospital for a whole week with coronavirus, is saying, bro, let's make sure our dad gets the vaccine. My father, alhamdulillah, my own father, alhamdulillah, had the vaccine on Monday this week. And I'm grateful to Allah that he has taken that vaccine. But remember, no matter what vaccine you take, no matter what medication you take, shifa comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I am sure there'll be cases where people will take the vaccine and may contract the coronavirus because Allah has willed. But we have to remember that any tools that Allah has put in front of us, we should take advantage of. Why? Because the science is telling us that this is safe. Now, if science is telling us this is safe, we should take that. We should take the benefit of that and make sure not just the Muslims benefit from that, but all of humanity benefits from that. And that's all I'm going to say about it. But feel free to write in, and jazakallah khair to the brother from Germany for sending us your message. May Allah bless you. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic. And if you have any questions or comments on the vaccine, I'd love to talk to you on the usual number on the line as well. So let's go to our next topic of the program, because it is a very special topic. It's a very special topic for one special person, and that's Zaffar Saab, because we're going to be talking about the Labour Friends of Kashmir. The Labour Friends of Kashmir are a voluntary group within the Labour movement that campaign for self-determination of the Kashmiri people, as well as ending terrible human rights abuses in Kashmir. And we're very lucky to be joined by Councillor Wajid Khan, the Mayor of Burnley, who's also the National Coordinator of the Labour Friends of Kashmir as well. Councillor Saab, Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Wa alaikum assalam, I'm very well. Just to let you know, I've just listened to your conversation about the vaccine, and I've actually got coronavirus at the moment. So just
SubhanAllah.
Oh, wow.
You've got coronavirus, and how are you doing, Councillor Saab? How are you feeling?
I'm all right. I get the odd cough now, but I've had all the rough few nights where my body's been battered and bruised. But yeah, my mum's got coronavirus as well, so it is.
Allah make it easy for you. Okay, Allah make it easy for you. And what's your take, just very quickly before we go into Kashmir topic, which is an important topic? But what's your take? You've got coronavirus now, right now, Councillor Wajid Khan. You're the Mayor of Burnley, and you've got coronavirus right now. This is real, right? This people think that they're immune, they're not going to get it, and you know they've got good health or whatever. They've got special blood cells that are going to protect them from it. What's your take? I mean, if you have the opportunity to take the vaccine, obviously you didn't because you're not eligible for it. But if you know somebody who can take it and should take it, what's your take?
Absolutely take it. I mean, these conspiracies are just really frightening and frustrating, and I think it's ignorance. Look, let's be honest with you. MHRA, if there's any this kind of pontification that they're not going to do their job properly, and this idea always only come out in 9 months. Of course, the whole world's resources, the governments are putting billions of pounds into this. It's not like it would happen in a normal time because of the catastrophic economic health impact it's had on all communities across the world. There's been a lot of resources being pooled, a lot of collaborations, and that's why it's been able to be turned around in such a fast space of time. But also, the MHRA are not going to just risk their reputation, which is a huge reputation across the globe, as well as the EMA with the European Medicines Agency and the FDA in USA. So MHRA.
And just to be clear, MHRA, just for our listeners, Councillor Saab, MHRA is the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory
Authority. Yeah.
Yeah, and these guys are the top doctors, right? They're the top scientists in the world, right? And look, Anthony Fauci in the US, right? The guy who's taking care of COVID in the US, Anthony Fauci, he even said, he's even approved it. And this guy is the authority in the US.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we've got to be, look, let's be frank here. The BAME community has been disproportionately affected in terms of cases and loss of life and hospitalizations. So whether it's our cultural extended family ways of working, our large households, our nature of our setup of communities and how we interact, it's there, and that's an issue there. So the government has to look at all communities, but if there's a higher rate within a particular community, there needs to be more focus. And I think it's disingenuous to people that have lost their lives to say, oh, don't take the vaccine, or they're going to get your data. I just think, what world are we living in? I understand people have got their freedom to express their views, but you know, when people are dying, and you know, my mum's there upstairs isolating, and she's in deep trouble and she's in deep pain, and you know, obviously we're doing whatever we can to give her the love, care, and attention. But mate, you know, you don't compromise on your parents' lives.
Councillor Saab, let me give you some advice, quick advice, and I think maybe our listeners can benefit from this advice as well. My brother, he was having some breathing difficulties, and he had a high temperature, right? He had around, he was at around 37.6, 37.5. When the paramedics came, he dialed 999. They came and checked him out, and they put one of those O2 monitors on him, so the blood oxygen saturation monitors, and they said, your oxygen saturation is at 100, you're fine, we're not taking you in. And then he called me up because I was insisting he goes into hospital, and they were refusing to take him into hospital. Now, let me tell everyone right now, you know your body better than they do. So they have protocols in place, and we need to respect those protocols. But if you feel that you are quite literally not yourself and beyond the worst flu you've ever had, insist for them to take you in to hospital. Because I tell you one thing, if I did not insist for my brother to go into hospital upon the advice of those paramedics, the doctor said you would have severe pneumonia right now and you may not have survived. This is the serious nature of the situation. So if you feel, Councillor Saab, is that your mother is in a situation where, you know, she's struggling to breathe and she's really, really bad, just dial 999, because that's what we pay our taxes for at the end of the day. We don't want to overwhelm the NHS. We do want to make sure that we use the resources, the finite resources we have, in a controlled way. But what I say is, if in doubt, don't hesitate to dial 999. And as I say this to everyone, and to go into hospital and get taken care of. Alhamdulillah, my brother's out a week later. He's not fully healthy, but they saved his life, and that's the beauty of my NHS. So just some gentle advice for you as well, Councillor Saab, and anybody else listening who has COVID symptoms.
Alhamdulillah. So I guess the main topic of discussion. So we did see a flyer basically on WhatsApp about a conversation between the Labour Friends of Kashmir chairman, that's Andrew Gwynn MP, and the Kashmir Committee chairman in Pakistan, Sharia Khan Afridi. So I just wanted a little bit of an update on that in terms of what the significance of that was and what was discussed and what the outcome was, really.
I think it's just probably right for me to give you a little bit of a background.
Sure.
Kashmir. Obviously, if you look at a lot of Kashmir organizations, it's very much, unfortunately, men talking to men in big rooms. And I think what we wanted to do is not have these big gatherings where people have a big, nice dinner and go away and do nothing about it. My background, I was a member of European Parliament before I was a mayor. So I was served in the European Parliament, and I did a lot of work in Kashmir, and I wanted to follow it up to do something internally within our party. So we like the fact there's a Conservative Friends of Kashmir and Liberal Democrats Friends of Kashmir, but within our own party, there needs to be I think our political organisation is a huge movement. We want to make sure there's a right discussion and dialogue going on amongst the every level of from the top leadership all the way down to the grassroots members and community leaders, to make sure that we get the right policy and it's put into place in a sustainable manner, and it's in manifesto. So as part of the work, our chair, Andrew Gwynn MP, is a formidable person. So I founded Labour Friends of Kashmir with a good brother of mine called Zaffar, and this is from Birmingham, cabinet member, lovely hard-working councillor. He's Kashmiri background as well. I'm not Kashmiri background, but I don't think you have to be Kashmiri background. It's just about humanity, to care about what's happening over there. And what's really important, we have voices from both sides of Kashmir, from the Indian administered Kashmir and the Pakistani administered Kashmir, and we have a gender representation, and we have people from all the way from Scotland all the way down to Oxford. So Sharia Khan Afridi was a number of, so the chair launched webinars to get a range of views and speak to people about tough issues, about what he's doing. What's this Kashmir committee about? What is it their name, or is there some purpose to it? What have they been doing in kind of promoting human rights in Kashmir, or what they've been doing to raise the concerns of Kashmiris both sides, and also about self-determination. What is the way of working within that committee? Because that dialogue is important. Before that, we had the president was Azad Kashmir. Next session is going to be with somebody, an academic from the Indian administered Kashmir. So we're trying to get a range of voices and dialogue. And this is the fundamental point here, Zaffar, because we're not always going to agree on which is the best way forward out for Kashmir. Some people want, independence, totally independent. Some people want to side with Pakistan. Some people, well, not many, but some people may want to side with India. So I think for ourselves, is just to have a platform to provide that debate and dialogue to see a future for Kashmir, just like India had a future and Pakistan had a future.
What? To be honest, what does it achieve? I mean, you have dialogue, you have people chatting on Zoom, etc. But surely there must be a purpose behind it.
Yeah,
there must be a purpose. And what's that serious purpose?
The purpose is that we have a sustainable policy. If we ever form government, that we've got a manifesto commitment from the leadership of the party, which has been designed, implemented, in the party, but designed and worked with the people from all levels of our party to ensure that we have a fair policy that no.
Well, you had a policy, right? And the new Labour leadership came in and just basically rubbished it, right? So what are you having to start again?
No, I think to be frank, the new Labour leader didn't really kind of it's to use ill words, ill thought out words. It didn't really kind of grasp the issue, and I think that's one of the reasons why Labour Friends of Kashmir is an important.
Well, he followed it up. He sent letters to the Indian community.
That was the initial point. But since then, he wrote a letter to us, which is on our website.
But he's part of the Labour Party as well, so he's been elected to the Labour Party. Yeah, right? You've got a friend, Labour Friends of Kashmir. Presumably, it's got lots of following, etc., within the Labour Party. And here you have somebody who becomes a leader, and he's oblivious to your policy. So what's going on?
Yeah, no, but this is the reason why Labour Friends of Kashmir is there, to educate, inform, and to make sure that convince people that what is the right policy. And unfortunately, he wrote a letter to the Hindu Forum, to Mrs. Kumar, which was ill thought out, lazy words. And he's first to admit, he's, as an advocate for human rights, this isn't a bilateral issue. This is an issue for everybody.
But how come he didn't come out and apologize and say, "I'm sorry"?
But if you'll hear me out, he has come back and wrote back to us. He has come back and clarified his comments. Just let me finish. And he's also wrote to the Muslim Council of Britain, who also raised his position, and he's shifted his policy. And he recognises now that this is not a bilateral issue. This is a multilateral issue. Human rights can't be between. So it's not. You can't just kill your people and think, by the way, it's between myself and my constitution and my country. It is for everyone to be concerned. And that initially he wrote the letter, which he later reflected on and realised that that's something that he's developed on and changed his tune.
So are we saying that our leader, the Labour leader, basically didn't do his homework, wasn't familiar with the situation, and then out of not to use this term, but out of ignorance, he basically used his platform to reach out to a community in I guess ignoring mainstream support for the Kashmiri cause. So what you're saying is he was ignorant, but he's no longer ignorant. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that, Zaffar. All I'm saying, when he first came into power, he did an exercise to engage with many communities, the Jewish community, the Hindu community, and in the letter to the Hindu Forum, he responded back, and he was very early on in his tenure, and he misjudged the situation in terms of what's going on over there, and didn't really kind of consult and engage with the wider leadership and other colleagues and stakeholders within the movement. And I think later on you'd realise that after his letters to Afzal Khan, he wrote a letter to him, he wrote at a meeting with the Parliamentary Liaison Committee. We've also got Rachel Hopkins from Luton, and she's on the executive committee, and Piers had an engagement with the executive committee, and we kind of are working with him, and we're going to move forward to make sure that the leadership understands the deep issues, the historical abuses, and then we come up with a policy which is going to be sustainable and something we can champion in our policy and manifesto. So when we come in government, it's not just words, we can act upon a policy. And I think that takes a bit of time, Zaffar. You can't have it overnight. And I think your point you've raised is right. Initially, ill thought out and a bit rushed from Keir. However, now with the engagement, we're having a good positive dialogue, and he's been really good listening.
So I guess
very nicely said. Zaffar, I'll let you ask one last question. And Councillor Saab, I've got to say, very well handled those questions, especially since you got coronavirus as well.
Yeah. I was gonna say, so the position of the previous Labour leadership, right, was actually, the position was clear, right? So if we're having to start from afresh again, it just means that we just get to a position where we get our voices heard, and then change the leadership, and we have to start all over again. So it just seems like a circular sort of exercise.
Zaffar, I can understand where you're coming from, but I think the position wasn't clear because we had a resolution passed at conference, and what Ian Lavery did, this is where the problem started. Ian Lavery kind of wrote a letter basically just rubbishing our resolution at the conference, and that caused a lot of confusion. And I did that to appease voters from a particular community. But you shouldn't appease voters at the expense of human rights abuses in one part of the world. It's not one community against another community, and that's not the way we should be doing it. So I think there's been a bit of confusion, there's been a backtracking, but I think this is why we need to have a professional, progressive, modernized, inclusive organization within our movement to ensure that we are not going to be taken for granted. There are millions of Kashmiri people living in the UK, millions of Kashmiris that can influence constituencies and elections. So it's not about just that, but it's about the right thing to do, which is the moral thing to do, to stand up for human rights for everyone in the world.
All right, Councillor Saab, Councillor Wajid Khan, Mayor of Burnley, Jazakallah Khair for joining us and giving us the update from the Labour Friends of Kashmir. Jazakallah Khair, and get well soon, and wishing your mother also well wishes, and may Allah cure her as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and Ameen. Thank you.
Take care of yourself. All right, listeners, this is Friday Night Live. Coming up next, we're going to be speaking to Taj Ali, freelance writer, about Islamophobia in the Labour Party.
FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Tune in to Inspire FM on 105.1 FM and globally at www.inspirefm.org.
ये कोरोना वायरस की एक अहम और ताज़ा तरीन खबर है। जिंदगियां बचाने के लिए नई पाबंदियां कौमी सतह पर 2 दिसंबर तक जारी हैं। आप लाजमी घर रहिए। आप घर से सिर्फ फूड, मेडिकल रीजंस, वर्जिश, तालीम और काम की वजह से जा सकते हैं। आप घर से ही काम करें अगर कर सकते हैं। मास्क सवाए जरूरत सफर न कीजिए। ताज़ा तरीन रहनुमाई और निजात के लिए विजिट कीजिए gov.uk/coronavirus। होशियार रहिए, वायरस की रोकथाम कीजिए, जिंदगियां बचाइए।
हसन केटरिंग, शादी हो या सालगिरह या फिर किसी भी किस्म के फंक्शन के लिए हमारी बेहतरीन सर्विस और शानदार मेन्यू से फायदा उठाएं। हमारे माहिर कुक उम्दा खाना बेहतरीन मसाला जात से तैयार करते हैं। हमारी फखरिया पेशकश चिल्टन होटल हाया करने पर स्पेशल डिस्काउंट हासिल करें। अब जदीद तकाज़ों के साथ बेहतरीन हॉल, उम्दा सजावट, आला सर्विस। मजीद मालूमात के लिए आज ही कॉल कीजिए 01582 706666 or visit hasancatering.co.uk.
Ideal Properties 20 साल से आपकी खिदमत में पेश आपकी प्रॉपर्टी की सारी जिम्मेदारी अब हमारी। हम अच्छी तरह से जांच पड़ताल करके किराएदार डालते हैं और आपको किराया बर वक्त गारंटी के साथ दिलवाते हैं। अगर आप प्रॉपर्टी किराए पर लेने या फरोख्त करने का सोच रहे हैं तो आज ही हमारे तजुर्बाकार माहिरीन से राब्ता कीजिए 01582721110 या फिर 01582696050। Ideal Properties, आपकी मदद हमारा ऐन फरीज़ा।
As winter approaches, here's a critical reminder of coronavirus symptoms from Dr. Gupta.
The main symptoms of coronavirus are a high temperature or a new continuous cough or a sudden loss or change in your sense of smell or taste. If you have any of these, to protect yourself and others, it is critical you isolate at home, even if you don't feel too bad. And you must book a test immediately. Use the NHS COVID-19 app or go to gov.uk/coronavirus.
Stay alert, control the virus, save lives.
Do you want an Islamic education alongside national curriculum for your child? Al Hikmah School for Boys and Girls are your #1 choice. Last year, we had the highest attainment 8 score in Luton, and the GCSE pass rate in Maths and English was 94%. We teach a full range of subjects where you can gain up to 10 GCSEs. The school is now registered with the prestigious private school body ISA and uses state-of-the-art facilities, including indoor playing area, playing field, brand new science lab, and IT facilities. Call now to apply for your child on 01582 728 196.
We're facing the biggest health challenge of our generation, and we've shown that together we're stronger than ever. But to keep making a difference, we need to support each other. If you're a man and you've had coronavirus recently, then you might just have the antibodies to help save lives in your blood plasma. That's why we urgently need men to donate. Giving blood plasma is safe and easy. Be the difference. Search Donate Plasma or call 0300 123 2323 today.
Fear Allah wherever you are. Do good immediately after a sinful act to erase it. and always be well-mannered in your relationship with people. Reported by Tirmidhi.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 7 o'clock.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to part 3 of tonight's edition of Friday Night Live on Friday, the 18th of December, 2020. I'm your host, Abdul Akbar, tonight sitting in for Hafiz Shaban and joined by brother Zaffar Iqbal Saab as well. So welcome to all of you tuning into the program this evening. We've been talking about the COVID vaccine and also to the Labour Friends of Kashmir on their updates as well. But the hot topic tonight is the COVID-19 jab and whether it's safe for public consumption. Of course, we know that many governments around the world have approved the COVID-19 vaccine for emergency use, and especially here in the UK, where the UK was the first public body to actually endorse the vaccine, also known as the Pfizer jab, with other jabs actually making their way into countries around the world as well. And that's really exciting stuff. However, some folks out there think that the vaccine is not safe and that it needs to be not taken. It needs to be something that needs to be investigated more because it is not safe. What do you reckon? Give us a call or WhatsApp us on the usual number, 01582 481 822. Would love to hear your perspective on whether or not the coronavirus vaccine is safe. We've had some Facebook messages as well on facebook.com/InspireFM Luton. You can tune in to us live there and leave your messages on facebook.com/InspireFM Luton. You can give me a call and speak to me live. Challenge me, 01582 481 822. Convince me if you think the vaccine is not safe. Come and convince me. Talk to me. I won't expose you. Don't worry. We'll have a civilized, constructive conversation, just like many Muslims do in mosques when they disagree with each other. They have a civilized discussion. I'm winding you up. But anyway, let's have a chat. But somebody on Facebook, Saman, has said, thank you so much for addressing the conspiracy theories and sharing about your brother. May Allah bless all the people who are suffering with Shifa. Ameen to that amazing dua. And also the same person has said, and let's not forget that smallpox virus was eradicated because of vaccines. Also, we have Sister Frazana saying, thank you for calling out the absurd and ridiculous conspiracy theories about the vaccine. I have noticed a trend, though, Zaffar Saab. I've noticed that women are more on the ball regarding the vaccine than men. Almost all of the anti-vaxxers that have been talking to me about the vaccine not being safe have all been men. Zaffar Saab, what's your observation there?
I've not sort of had that kind of the information sort of presented like that, quite like that, to be honest. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure I want to comment on that particular one, to be honest.
But do you know what? It's just frustrating, bro. Honestly, I'm going to keep going on about this because I really want the community to understand that with the data in front of us, the data is important, right? If any pharmaceutical company is out there saying, hey, we've got X% efficacy, in other words, the vaccine is effective against the virus in this way and does not share their data, then that's got to be dodgy, right? I'm not going to trust any kind of chemical in my body or anybody else's if the data is not clear in black and white for scrutiny. And I know there are Chinese pharmaceutical companies that are not exposing their data, for example. However, the Mrna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine and the so-called AstraZeneca/Oxford vaccine, all of those companies have had their data exposed for everyone to scrutinize in the scientific community. And people who know a lot more about molecules and atoms and electrons and how they behave with our innards and our DNA have said that actually these vaccines are safe for public consumption. But, you know, the long-term effects of mRNA vaccine technology is not known, but the mRNA actually is excreted by the body, especially the Pfizer jab and the Mrna jab that use this technology. It comes out of your body within around 2 days. And after that, it takes around 3 weeks for your body to ramp up, in other words, to get some immunity. And then you have to have a second jab after around 3 weeks, according to the doctor we spoke to earlier. And then you end up getting some kind of strong immunity. That doesn't mean you can't get the virus, but you do have a better chance against it because your body can fight it in a much better way because it's been prepared, it's been primed to deal with it. So there you go. Zaffar, what say you?
Yeah, and also I think important to note, right, is that there's no research that's done which indicates that you won't transmit it to others. If you've got it, if you've taken the vaccine is working, you can deal with it. But there's no evidence at the moment, right, to indicate that you can't pass it on to anybody else. So that still remains a risk.
Yeah. So what? I mean, at least you don't think yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, to balance the argument, you have to have a balanced argument to be honest with the day, right? To balance the argument, right? This is unknown, right? And people are afraid of the unknown. So you can't simply say this is ridiculous, right? People rightly have reservations until more is available. More is available. Every time I've said to you, every time I read medication, right? You know, when you read medication, right? It tells you risks off. Yeah. Risk of 1 in 100, right? 1 in 100 of you getting this, and 1 in 1,000 are getting this, 1 in 10,000 are getting this, right? And you think, well, okay, oh my God, am I part of 100, the 1,000, or 10,000? How risky is it? How am I gonna? How is you know?
You hit the nail on the head, Zaffar. You're spot on, because if you open up, when you buy paracetamol or ibuprofen or something stronger in terms of an antibiotic, right? Like coamoxiclav or something like that. All of these medicines that you take have risk. Even paracetamol has risk. If you read the patient information leaflet in any medication that's in your medicine drawer right now, you'll see that there are side effects associated with it. These vaccines are no exception. But I'll tell you one thing, people are right to be concerned. You know, if you're not concerned, there's something wrong with you. Of course, you're going to be concerned. You're putting a chemical into your body which hasn't really had the test of time. However, on the opposite side to that is it's gone through a due diligence process over the course of 9 to 10 months, where tens of thousands of people have been given a placebo. In other words, basically saline solution. They think they're getting the vaccine, but they didn't. And the other 20,000 people got the actual vaccine candidate. And what they found is that people who took the vaccine candidate did not catch coronavirus as much as those who took the saline, the placebo. And that's how they do the trials. So they start off with around 100 people. In the phase 1 trial, they start off with a very small sample. And obviously, if there's any problems with those 100 people, so for example, they have a heart attack, or they die, or they get a really bad headache, that's investigated and that's looked into. And then a call is made whether or not that trial should continue into phase 2. Now, what's been unprecedented with these trials, with these vaccine trials during the COVID-19 era, is that the phase 2 trial and the phase 3 trials, they overlapped. In other words, for previous vaccines that have happened in the past, the phase 1 trial happens and you wait for that to end. And then the phase 2 trial happens and you wait for that to end. And then you start the phase 3 trial. What they did is, in order to speed up the turnaround time, they actually started the phase 3 trials whilst the phase 2 trial was still ongoing. And if there was any indication that the phase 2 trial was giving an ineffective or a dangerous result, then that would have prevented the phase 3 trial from continuing. So there has been a lot of learning. But like the mayor said, the mayor of Burnley, who was on earlier, who has coronavirus himself, he said very clearly that the whole world's resources, the scientific community, the best of the best of the best, like from Imperial College, from Oxford, from Harvard, from Yale, from all of these universities, they put their hearts and minds together, and they've solved this quite quickly because the whole world was focused on this. This could potentially wipe out all of humanity if it was spread and if it was allowed to spread the way it did. So that's why it's been stopped. And Zaffar, what goes through my mind is, if the world can come together in unity to fight this, I wonder if we can come together and fight cancer and fight other severe illnesses that we have. Why can't we do the same for bowel cancer? Why can't we do the same for lung cancer? Do you see what I mean? So it is exciting to see what humans can do when we have the same alignment in terms of saving lives. And I just hope we can learn from this and actually move forward and use this mRNA technology in other interesting areas as well. Anyway, enough said for now. Let's move on to our next topic. And if you have any comments or questions on this topic, I do invite you to call us in on 01582 481 822. Happy to have you on the line. You can leave a message as well for us on WhatsApp and on Facebook Live as well. But I do want to go into our next topic, listeners, because this topic is really interesting. It's all about Islamophobia in the Labour Party. And we're joined by somebody who wrote an article, an opinion piece in the Metro newspaper just a few days ago, earlier this week on Monday. His name is Taj Ali. He's a freelance writer and political activist based in Luton, and he's on the radio right now. Assalamu alaikum, Taj. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. I'm good, thanks.
Taj, is it Taj or Taj? How do you like to be called?
Taj.
Taj. All right, I'll call you Taj. Taj, bro, good to speak to you. And you wrote a really interesting opinion piece in the Metro newspaper that mostly circulates around London, and you talked about Islamophobia in the Labour Party and the fact that the Labour Party needs to tackle this head on. What's going on there? What's the essence of your article? What did you find in your research?
So last month, the Labour Muslim Network, which is a focus group that focuses on Muslim members, actually released a report where they spoke to 400 members of the Labour Party, Muslim members, and they found widespread Islamophobia in the Labour Party. And this comes after we've had 500 days since Boris Johnson promised an inquiry into Islamophobia within the Conservative Party. So it was pretty damning, to see a party that is all about social justice, that has traditionally had the support of the Muslim community and ethnic minority communities in general, having such widespread Islamophobia. The actual statistics were more than 1 in 4 Muslim members had said they faced Islamophobia. And for me, what was quite surprising was more than 50% said they didn't trust the leadership to tackle Islamophobia. These are paid up members of the Labour Party. So it is quite a serious issue.
It is a serious issue. And obviously, anyone who follows, and I'm sure you do, Taj, is that anyone who follows the Labour Party leadership, like Sir Keir Starmer, will know that he is very pro kind of right-wing Israeli kind of situation movement as well. And, I think being pro-Israel is one thing, and that's okay to be pro-Israel. Lots of people are pro-Israel and all the rest of it. But do you feel like Sir Keir is the problem here in terms of the fact that he is more biased towards that part of the community in terms of the UK than maybe Jeremy Corbyn was? Do you think that's causing some of the issues where people feel a bit strengthened to be a bit more Islamophobic because of the current leadership we have in the Labour Party?
I would personally say that Islamophobia predates Keir Starmer. I think New Labour under Tony Blair was part of the problem because they pursued Islamophobia through counterterrorism legislation. Me personally, I joined the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn. I thought he had some amazing policies. I particularly appreciate his support from the Muslim community when it came to the Iraq War, when it came to Palestine, when it comes to Kashmir. Clearly, not everyone feels the same way, and he was unsuccessful in the 2019 general election. I do have to say, though, under Keir Starmer, what we have seen is a U-turn on key issues that do affect the Muslim community. So earlier this year, he actually said that the Kashmir issue was a bilateral issue rather than a statement that Jeremy Corbyn had previously said that said, we stand in support of the people of Kashmir. We stand with their right for self-determination. 85% of British Muslims voted for the Labour Party in 2017. That is a resounding mandate from British Muslims for the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn. And because of the U-turn on Kashmir, we've also seen a sort of lack of support for Palestine, maybe on the fence, whereas with Jeremy Corbyn, we saw quite vocal support. These are issues that were uncovered in the Muslim Network report. And speaking to friends, clearly a lot of people are dissatisfied with Keir Starmer's leadership, particularly in the Muslim community. That's what I'm hearing on the ground, and that's what a lot of people have been saying to me.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have anybody from the actual Labour Party leadership to respond to your findings, but what they might say, for example, is that the Labour Party still is the best option for the Muslim community in terms of its policies and in terms of the connection that it has to the community and how it stands up for some of the issues that are very near and dear. I mean, what say you? Because you're right in that some of the strength that the Labour Party held under the Corbyn leadership may not be as strong under the Keir Starmer leadership. But nonetheless, don't you feel as though Labour is the best option or the lesser of the evils that we have from the options that we have, from the Conservatives and the Lib Dems? I mean, what's your take there as a Labour Party member yourself?
I absolutely agree with you. And I think we do have to be pragmatic. I've heard people saying, you know what, we need to leave the Labour Party. After the U-turn on Kashmir, I think there was something that came out in 5 Pillars which said 100 mosques would threaten to boycott the Labour Party. In my opinion, I think it's in our best interest to actually campaign to change the Labour Party, to say we as British Muslims will give you our support, but we also demand that you take us seriously, that you listen to us on key issues. When it comes to elections, British Muslims, we vote for the Labour Party in our numbers. Look at some of the wards, look at the council elections in Luton. We have Muslim councillors, Labour Muslim councillors, we have Labour Muslim MPs. We should be demanding that our representatives, particularly in the Labour Party, should be campaigning on these issues. So I think we definitely, as a community, need to get together and say we demand better.
Makes sense. Zaffar, let me bring you into this conversation, if I may, which is, I mean, you've been in, various circles. From your experience, you've been exposed to both Conservative candidates, Labour candidates, councillors, etc. In your time in Luton over the last few decades. And what's your take on the current posturing of the Labour Party towards Muslims? Are you finding that there is Islamophobia within the Labour Party? Maybe within the Labour Party within Luton, or is it kind of a wider issue, maybe focused in other constituencies and not maybe in very red constituencies like Luton? What's your observation so far, Zaffar?
I think from the kind of limited experience I have, to be honest, I think there's a general disease within the community, right? That Islamophobia is acceptable. And that's permeated within the parties, and I wouldn't be surprised that some level of Islamophobia is not present in all of the parties. It's becoming a currency, basically, that people can wear as a badge of honor. So there are some people, right, within the Labour Party in certain constituencies where there are people who've got those Islamophobic type of views where they kind of pamper to them, right? And it's quite well understandable that they would. Right, because they're after the votes, etc. Not saying that these things don't happen. These things do happen, and there are. The key thing is that all of the parties publicly adhere to a set of principles, right, where equality is for all, and not just sort of pamper to sort of individual views. Individual views are influenced by the wider. We've talked about sort of junk social media posts and people talking rubbish about the vaccines, etc. Similarly, right, we Muslims have been subjected to this kind of rubbish, right, since social media became popular, right? There's so many myths out there, right, and people get to a point where pretty senior people, right, actually believe it, right, and I've actually heard our leader, Conservative leader, basically our Prime Minister, quote something right from the Quran very ignorantly in one of the TV programs very early on in the day, and he'd actually picked it up from a flyer from a National Front magazine. The National Front magazine was circulating this allegation, right, about Muslims and Muslims. The Quran tells them to kill non-Muslims, etc. Right, and he actually quoted that on national media.
It's
right?
crazy.
It's shocking. The thing is, there's two challenges really. One is to challenge that kind of information that's out there, right? And that's our job effectively in some ways. But at the same time, I think people ought to sort of be a little bit sensitive to the fact that, people aren't always as they are, described, and they've got to dig a little bit deeper to try and find out what what makes people tick and what they're all about, really.
Yeah,
so
and the other thing
it doesn't surprise me, really. So,
but you know, the other thing, Zaffar and Brother Taj, is that I think the Islamophobia that you've identified, Taj, in the Labour Party is systemic of society as well. You know, these parties represent society. Conservative Party, Labour Party, the Liberal Party, Green Party are systemic of the society that we live in. And we've seen society become more Islamophobic over the last few years. And therefore, the parties will represent that. We've seen society become more right towards immigration, Muslims wearing hijab, Muslims wearing a beard, you know, Islamophobic attacks increasing. Ever since the Trump administration came in, people feeling empowered globally, really, to attack Muslims. Ever since we've seen the Conservative Party come in, a lot of challenges happen in safe neighborhoods. We're talking about Luton, for example, being a very safe neighborhood, right, Taj? And I mean, if people like Ali Milani, you know, in your articles you mentioned, who stood as Labour's parliamentary candidate, and he's saying, you know, he heard and he was asked if he was a terrorist, then what hope do we have, right? But Taj, what's your take there? What can we do? Like, what's the solution here? So we've identified. Go for it. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think Islamophobia is more than just prejudice. In my opinion, I think it's a political tool that has been used to justify domestic policy when it comes to mass surveillance, when it comes to counterterrorism legislation. They have to rely on stigmatizing and demonizing the Muslim community to have that legislation passed to say, we are doing these things under the guise of fighting terrorism for national security interests. So there is an interest at play. That's why a lot of people ask, why is it happening for? Why is it that Muslims are being attacked in China, in Burma? Why is Islamophobia such a global phenomenon? It's because it works, essentially. For some people, it works. The Iraq war was justified on the basis that the Iraqis need democracy. You know, Rudyard Kipling, he talks about the white man's burden, which was used to justify colonialism by saying these helpless people needed our way of life to improve themselves. So I think definitely Islamophobia functions as a political tool. And in my opinion, the best way to tackle Islamophobia is actually, first of all, to challenge the laws that enable it. So, for example, the Prevent agenda that is currently operating in British schools and British healthcare system, where Muslims can be targeted for extremism, even when there is no extremism there. For example, supporting Palestine. I think it's about looking at the individuals at the top, because it is rhetoric from the top which sets the agenda for the rest of the UK. After Boris Johnson's remarks on Muslim women wearing burqas looking like people letterboxes, there was a 400%, 375% increase in hate crime, according to an Islamophobe monitoring group. So clearly, rhetoric from the top is influencing society. I also think we do suffer from lack of representation as Muslims. Journalism, for example, is one of the most socially exclusive industries in the UK. I think only 0.4% of journalists are Muslim. So clearly we don't get to tell our own stories. So we're not just misrepresented, we're underrepresented too. And I think that needs to change.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. There's a lot of work to be done, but thanks to folks like yourself, Taj, and others who are really trying to make sure that there is a fair representation, and also holding newspapers, media outlets, members of parliament to account as well. I mean, there's a lot of armchair members of parliament that rely on the Muslim vote that really aren't doing a good representation of that Muslim demographic in their constituencies. But I think one of the other challenges is we're not proactive enough, bro. I mean, if this is a real problem, we need to, like yourself, you're an activist. I think we all need to become activists in the right kind of way, right? And really stand up and say, you know, this is a problem for me. It's affecting me. It's affecting my children, etc., etc. But Brother Taj, really appreciate your time. Great article. If you haven't seen the article, folks, look it up on any search engine of your choice. It's by Taj Ali on Islamophobia. Looking forward to seeing more articles of yours, Taj, in the future as well. Keep us posted.
Jazakallah khair for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Assalamu alaikum, bro. Well, listeners, this is Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar, and Zaffar Iqbal Sab. Coming up in a moment, we're actually continuing the topic of Islamophobia. And coming up next is a really important topic as well, actually, listeners, because we're going to be talking about grooming gangs. And you know as well as I do, when we talk about grooming gangs, you're going to think, oh, God, they're going to talk about all those Pakistani nutcases in Rochdale or all those faces that you see splattered over the news, which again underlines the point that Taj Ali was making, that when you think about grooming gangs, they want us to think about Muslims, about Pakistanis having this problem. But guess what? There is a report that came out, right, from the Home Office saying most child sexual abuse gangs are made up of white men and actually not Asian men. That topic and more coming up in a moment. Stay tuned for this because we've got a great lineup for you. We've got Rihanna Faisal, local activist from Luton, and also Peter Adams from Faces joining us to talk about this very important topic, because it's really upsetting when organizations like Sky News and the BBC, they talk about grooming and they show predominantly Pakistani men and making everyone think that it's Pakistani men behind this issue. But actually, it's white men. That topic coming up next. Stay tuned.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Amin Islam. My name is Tahimiya. And keep tuned to Inspire FM 105.1 FM.
Luton's most luxurious venue for Asian weddings is now bigger and better than ever before. With 2 venues to choose from, Venue Central can provide the ultimate setting for your wedding. 2 huge venues, 1 high standard, right in the centre of Luton. Visit us online today at venuecentral.co.uk or call us now on 01582 451 767. Venue Central, affordable luxury in a central location.
How many times have you needed urgent medical supplies but don't know where to go? At Harris Pharmacy, we take pride in delivering a high-level healthcare to our community. This is why we have services such as private one-to-one consultation, free prescription ordering from GP and delivery to your home, mobility aids such as providing wheelchairs and many other items for everyday use. Call us today on free phone 0800 458 2850 to discuss your medical needs. We are open from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. Monday to Friday and 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. on Saturdays. Harris Pharmacy, 165 A/B, Dunstable Road, Luton.
A widow's marriage was arranged by her father without her consent. She did not like her new husband. When she approached the messenger, peace be upon him, he annulled the marriage.
MK Tiles and Bathroom. We're the specialists for porcelain and ceramic tiles. Visit our new showroom today with all the latest tiles on display. We have a huge range of wall and floor tiles and we guarantee to beat any genuine quotes. Plus, for a limited time only, you can save up to 25% off selected items. So visit the new MK Tiles and Bathroom showroom, now at 5A Riddy Lane, Luton, LU3 2AD, or call 01582 50 30 30. What does our next generation of doctors, engineers and accountants have in common? Their journey started with a teacher. Are you a graduate looking at career opportunities? Do you have a passion for your subject and want to share it with others? If your answer is yes, then you have the key to unlocking the potential. At Chiltern Training Group, we offer both primary and secondary teacher training. Give us a call on 01582 493 680 or visit ctg.ac.uk. Knowledge builds knowledge. Share yours.
Nearly 1 million people die each year from water, sanitation and hygiene-related diseases which could be reduced with access to safe water or sanitation. You can make a change today. Donating safe water and sanitation contributes to improved health and helps prevent the spread of infectious diseases. Join Families Relief in providing safe, clean drinking water to the neediest around the world by calling 0114 365 4454 or visiting familiesrelief.org.uk.
इस्लामी नुक्ता निगाह से इल्मी और फिक्री मौज़ूआत का जायजा, इस्लाम की इंसानियत साज़ तालीमात का ख्याल अफरोज़ तज़किरा, रवादारी और बक़ाए बाहमी क़ज़ामिन, फ़िक्र व नज़र की तत्हीर और अख़लाक़ी बालीदगी पर मबनी मौज़ूआत पर ताक़ीकी गुफ्तगू, वक्त, हालात और माहौल के तक़ाज़ों के मुताबिक समाजी इस्लाह क़ज़ामिन, सुनते रहिए और सवालात पूछिए इंस्पायर FM पर प्रोग्राम सदाए तकदीर हर बुध दिन 11 बजे प्रोफेसर मसूद अख्तर हजारवी के साथ।
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 7:30.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the fourth and final part of tonight's edition of Friday Night Live with me, Abdul Akbar, and Zaffar Iqbal Saab. This is, of course, Friday Night Live. We're beaming out to the good people of Luton and surrounding areas tonight, and also to the good people of Sheffield, Peterborough, Nottingham, and Derby through our partner stations across the nation. So far, we've talked about the coronavirus vaccine. We've talked about Islamophobia in the Labour Party and a bit of Kashmir as well. We're going to top off the program in a moment, talking about a very important topic that's been top of mind for many of us in the Muslim community, and something that, frankly, the media has got wrong time and time again. But don't take my word for that. We've got a couple of experts on the line in a moment who are going to cover this topic on grooming gangs and where we actually stand. So when you think of grooming gang, what do you think of? Do you think of predominantly British, Pakistani men, or do you think of some other demographic? Well, if the news is to be believed, especially the popular media outlets in terms of newspapers, broadcasters, etc., well, often more than not, they've actually been talking about grooming gangs within the context of the Muslim community. And if you're an average white middle-class viewer of such media outlets, whether it's the press or the broadcasters, you're going to start to formulate a conclusion. You're going to start to think, hang on a second, every time I hear about grooming and every time I turn on the news, they seem to show a bunch of mugshots of Asian-looking men that happen to look mostly Pakistani and Muslim. You're going to start scratching your head. And if that happens enough, you're going to start reaching a conclusion where grooming and gang is associated with Asians and, dare I say, Muslims. Well, a recent Home Office report is actually challenging that notion, and we're going to be talking about that in a moment, so stay tuned for that. But just before we go on to that and speak to our special guests, top story tonight coming out of the newsroom is that the PM Boris Johnson says he is hoping to avoid another national lockdown in England, but it admits COVID cases have increased very much in recent weeks. Of course, Luton and surrounding areas is going into Tier 3 restrictions from tonight. That's Friday, the 18th of December. From midnight tonight, you'll be all under Tier 3 restrictions, which basically means restaurants and pubs, should you desire to use one of those, are going to be closed except for takeout meals. So restaurants will still serve takeout meals, but the most strictest form of restriction will be, again, on Luton in this yo-yo of going from Tier 3 to Tier 2 time and time again. I mean, what a mess, Zaffar. What an absolute mess that Bojo and team have got us into, where I can't believe, look, I've been somebody who's brought up in London all my life, right? Christmas is part of the deal of living in and growing up in the United Kingdom, right? I used to sing carols in primary school. We Three Kings, yeah, I could quote that word for word. It's just something you do and something I did when I grew up in multicultural United Kingdom. However, look, I get the fact that people need to celebrate Christmas, but blooming heck, opening up families to get together, 3 families, 4 families, whatever, is just stupid. Like one step forward and 3 steps back. This government can't even reach a conclusion on that. What say you, Zaffar? What do you think of the current crisis in terms of COVID lockdown in the UK?
Yeah, I think you mentioned Bojo, but I think there's a bunch of bozos out there. I keep making making policy on the hoof, basically, right? So every day, right? What policy should we make today? So there is, to be honest, right? The first lockdown was very effective, right? From what I've experienced, yeah. So if you walk down to the local park or the high street, it was deserted, right? People respected it. The messaging was clear, right? This stuff is serious, right? You know, you need to stay indoors. That was a message. And then you had this, you know, like I can't even remember the very different sort of variations of different advices we got, to be honest. And this lockdown thing, the latest innovation part of it, I don't know the difference between tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. I have to keep looking up every time. But to be honest, right, when I'm in a situation, would I want to look up what my kind of obligations are? No, if it's not obvious, it's not happening. And I think this is why people aren't adhering, is because the messages have become so mixed. It's hard to sort of see which set of instructions to observe and believe anymore. And to be honest, the other messages, and we talked about the vaccine, and we talked about sort of, you know, people, you know, keeping distance and all that. People are beginning to realize, right, that, you know, the statistics that are coming up, yeah, a lot more people are getting them, but a lot more people are getting better as well. And the health director quoted on this radio to say, well, we know how to treat it, right? We know we found techniques of treating it, so there's a lot fewer deaths. So people are getting bolder. They are risking it. I'm not advocating that people should just break the rules and regulations, but the fact is there's just too many of them, and people are confused. I got confused back in August, to be honest, and I've not been able to keep up since, to be honest, in terms of what these different rules and regulations are.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about tier 3 and what that means, it is complicated. There's a whole list on the website. If you go on the NHS website, there's a whole list of things that you can't do. But effectively, the best thing to do is to stay within your support bubble, stay within your family, in other words, the people that you live with. My advice is actually try to avoid going out as much as you can, unless you really need to. Of course, people do need to go out for a walk, etc., but just don't meet people. Really is really important. I think you saw the whole news about Kay Burley having a 60th birthday party. Kay Burley being the Sky News presenter, very famous. She's been around Sky News since Sky News started, and you know, she had a 60th birthday party in central London. And she's been reprimanded for 6 months. She's not on Sky News right now for the next 6 months because of the fact that she never followed the COVID rules. And those were tier 2 rules. And now London is going into tier 3. So I think kudos to Sky for actually making sure and holding their presenters to account on these restrictions. But let's go on to another topic then that I want to talk about in the next 20 minutes or so on this program. It's a very important topic, and I'm really excited to actually be joined by some familiar names that I haven't seen in a while or haven't spoken to in a while. We've got Rihanna Faisal on the line. She's no stranger to this program or indeed to the station, sharing her perspectives. Looking forward to that. And also Peter Adams from Faces. Good evening to the both of you. How are you?
Good evening. Great to be with you.
Peter, how are you? Nice to see you, sir.
I'm very well, thank you, my friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And season's greetings to you and everyone around you. Yeah, totally. And Peter, have they converted you yet to the auspicious faith of the Islamic faith yet? Or are you still
No, I'm solidly Christian.
All right.
But you're still my friend.
Of course, I'm winding you up. To Peter, I must say, you're a very well-read person. I can see. I mean, I was reading an article the other day that the key to a good video conferencing call is to have a load of books behind you. And I can see it. Are those real books, or is that a Zoom?
It's always my wallpaper.
Your wallpaper looks very good, very good. Now we know where all that knowledge comes from in Peter. Peter, I'm going to be invoking some of that information in your database in a moment. But let me welcome Rihanna as well. Rihanna, assalamu alaikum, sis. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. And how are you keeping, Rihanna? How's the year of 2020 been for you? Like, what's been going on in the household of the Faisal household? Have you guys been well and healthy, I hope?
I mean, it's been I don't know for other people, but I think in our household, certainly things have been very, very busy. There's been, it's been a difficult time for lots of people. And, as masajids, and communities, we really had to step up. He and I have both had the virus. And,
Wow.
it was tough. My eldest daughter also had it. So, we've been through that. We understand the difficulty of it. And actually, in some cases, just, you there's lots of talk about like just the flu or just the cold. But, I'm probably a month post-COVID, and friends like Peter and others will tell you that I am nowhere near sort of recovered. So it's a difficult thing. We shouldn't take it for granted, but also remembering that lots of people are getting a lot better, but they are still falling ill, and they're going into hospitals, and it does have a knock-on effect, of people with other illnesses, and we're seeing that outside, as masajids, as community groups, we are seeing that outside, of the community, in the community when we work with them. So there's lots of kind of quite I think simplistic narrative, because people are exhausted, they are tired, and frankly frustrated at the as Zaffar talked about, the inconsistency around the messages. It seems nonsensical to many of us that we are moving to tier 3 overnight tonight. So tomorrow we'll be in tier 3, and a few days later we'll have a 5-day free-for-all. And all of that does seem nonsensical. It does dent confidence. But I think, as you sort of, put it nicely and sort of firmly, is that we've got to do our best.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Rihanna, I'm sorry to hear that you've had the coronavirus, and that you, even though you're not back to 100%, you're feeling better, and good wishes, well wishes to you and your family as well, and hope that clears out. And but for Rihanna, any advice in terms of anti-vaxxers saying don't take the jab? What's your take on that?
So look, I think I am going to follow the advice of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given that knowledge to and that understanding to. I won't be sharing viral messages that haven't been verified. We've got mashallah lots and lots of really knowledgeable people out in our communities who who understand the science, who understand about health. All of these kind of things, and this knowledge is a blessing from God. A blessing from Allah, and from everything that I hear from very knowledgeable people, the vaccine will save lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, what's your take? You want to come in, Peter? Go for it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I had COVID back in March. Early on, I was an early adopter. Didn't have it bad, but it was very infectious. Lots of people caught it. I will look forward to getting the vaccine as soon as I can, because people are getting it for the second time, so I want to be covered. I want to be wise. But all of this conspiracy theory stuff, all of the rumors that are out there, the viral messages that are out there, absolutely crazy. And I would just encourage everybody, to do that, to get the vaccine, be vaccinated, be as safe as you can, continue living as safe as you can, be wise.
Yeah, lovely messages, lovely words there. But I know both of you aren't here for this particular topic, but since we mentioned it, I think there's no harm in getting some feedback from your good selves as well, and benefiting from your experiences. And it sounds like both of you have had COVID. Wow, there you go. It brings it even closer to home as well. I've been fortunate enough to avoid COVID so far, touch wood. But look, nobody is immune from this. Everyone is getting it, and you can get it. Even if you take your due diligence, you can still get it.
Absolutely.
It's such a contagious disease, and that's what people don't realize. Anyway, let's go on to the next topic. And this is the actual topic both of you are here for, which is a recent Home Office report, which says that most child sexual abuse gangs are made up of white men. This is very interesting. And I was just talking about this in my intro, Rihanna and Peter, that, we've come to the realization over the past few months, at least many people who are not familiar with this topic would very easily infer that if you go on to, John Smith on the street and you said, who are the grooming gangs, what are they made up of? They'll probably say Asian men, Asian Muslim looking men. But this Home Office report says something else. Rihanna, first of all, your reaction to the report and your feelings on this.
I mean, look, we have as Faces, but, there have been lots of, great academics working on this and debunking this for a long time. Wakas Tufayl, Ella Cobain, these academics have been working on this and sort of challenging this, as have we at Faces, for a really long time. So it's not a surprise to us. The data has always been there. In fact, this report refers to other research that has been done. So it's all been out there. The information has been out there. But what we have had is a concerted effort. And frankly, I mean, an indication of, we often think that we live in a post-racial world, but I think it's just a little reminder for us of, the strength of racist narratives out there. I mean, you mentioned the media. I actually think that it's really important to say that this is a narrative that came from power, from right at the heart of government. So, people still remember Jack Straw, but Jack Straw was one of the sort of, Labour politicians. So it's not that, we talked about Labour earlier and Islamophobia and, is it in the Conservatives or Labour or Labour? But I mean, this is a really pervasive issue. I mean, so Jack Straw was framing Muslims in this way and talking about Muslim men in particular, framing Muslim masculinities as being like malignant and, deviant and all of these ways for a very long time. We had Sarah Champion talking about Muslim men in this way, the Sarah Champion MP. We've had sort of remarks made by, people who consider themselves really, liberal about these issues. And I've actually most recently, this report came off the back of the then Home Secretary Sajid Javid, who talked about disgusting Asian paedophiles. So I think there is a sort of, there is a part of you that says, right, okay, we've got this information out there, but I would really like somebody to acknowledge, and it won't happen, the damage that causes to young Muslim men, Muslim boys growing up, being constantly framed as bad, and you can't, because you can't actually, you've got to think about all of the ways that Muslim men are framed, and you can't detach this from the sort of war on terror narratives about Muslim men either. So they're abusers, they're violent, they're terrorists, all of these really strong narratives that we are hearing about our brothers and our sons, and that it has a real impact.
I hear you, Rihanna.
I'll always be sad about that.
Well, before I come back to Peter on this topic, one narrative that really sticks out to me, and I've had a real life example of this, is when I started to learn how to fly back in 2009. I remember going down to a local flying club in Henlow. It's on an RAF, air base, and they have a flying school. Then I walked in, a bunch of white middle-class men, and I walk in saying, "Hello, I'd like to learn how to fly, please." And they look at me thinking, with my profile, beard, young-looking chap, wants to learn how to fly. And they, credit to them, they didn't question me initially, but they did give me those funny looks. And eventually, when I got to know them, they did ask me on my views and thoughts, but I think it was more out of curiosity. But you could definitely see that there was something going through their mind, thinking, is this guy gonna learn how to fly and then decide to fly into Canary Wharf or something else, and or anything like that? And one of them even asked me. One of them goes to me, "Look, Akbar, I don't mean to be funny with you, but and I remember my instructor. He was mocking me at the time. When I was ready to qualify, when I was ready to take my exam, he said to me, 'Right, Akbar, congratulations. You can now fly into Canary Wharf.' And as a joke, and he was mocking me, and I took it as a joke. And I said to him, 'Oh, well, actually, John, I'm not going to be flying into Canary Wharf. I prefer Big Ben,' as a joke." And we kind of mocked into laughter. However, there was a serious connotation, if you think about it, in the back of this article, where even jokes like that are not funny, and actually quite serious, and they're offensive. And we should never tolerate them. I tolerated it because I had a good relationship with the chap. But nonetheless, people like that who are well-intended should be very careful on what they can say, because they could get them into a lot of trouble as well.
I see
Peter, back to you. Yeah, sorry.
If I can just come back just really quickly, those questions come because those narratives are flying around, wider out, the discourses are out there. But I think particularly in this case of Muslim grooming gangs, is one of the direct consequences of that is if you racialize perpetrators and say this is what a perpetrator of abuse looks like. And also what happened here is the victims were also racialized. So the perpetrators were brown, the victims were white. What happens then in terms of how we see victims and how we see perpetrators?
Right.
What it means is you're letting a whole load of perpetrators get away with it, and that you're ignoring a whole load of other victims. That's what it means, is that, you're telling some, you're erasing the abuse of hundreds and thousands of children. And that's what happened. There wasn't that there weren't any black and brown and even boys that were victims in Rotherham and Rochdale. We simply erased them, we ignored them, and that, I think, exposes one of the tragedies of this.
Yeah, no, you're right, but I want to give this question to Peter, if I may, because when I read the Guardian article that talks about this and did a pretty good job of exposing this, and Peter, Nazir Afzal, who is the former chief Crown prosecutor who actually in the Northwest who brought these prosecutions over the Rochdale grooming gangs, he says he welcomes the report, blah, blah, blah. And he says, and I'm going to quote him, he says, it confirms that white men remain the most common offenders, which is something rarely mentioned by right-wing commentators. However, he says, it is not shy in reflecting that South Asian and British Pakistani men are disproportionately found in high-profile cases. So he's still kind of going on that narrative. What's your take, Peter? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the words he used there, exactly, high-profile cases. Why are they high-profile? Because they've got in the media, because they fit within a certain pattern of offending. They become high-profile precisely because, number one, the media ups the game. Number two, the government focuses particularly. So we've had this with succeeding Home Secretaries. Number three, the far rights draw attention to that narrative.
Absolutely.
And those three things create the context whereby the man on the street, the woman on the street will look at it. I mean, I've had discussions 15, 20 times over the last 4 or 5 days since the report came out on this. And, however much the report comes out, it's still there. It's still in people's minds. And this report will not completely get rid of that. And the damage has been done. And it is huge damage. Because, as Rahana has said, it points the finger at you, but it lets other people get off because they don't fit the pattern.
Yeah.
The report itself cites the example of people after the BBC series that went out a year or two ago, 3 Girls, which was based upon the Rochdale story. There have been people who've identified grooming situations because they saw patterns that fitted that model. But what's happened is that they say in the report, the problem is people won't see other problems.
We've only got, Peter, we've only got a minute left. Yeah, you're right. But Peter, I've only got a minute left. Here's one thing that frustrates me, is Priti Patel, our quote-unquote Home Secretary, she hasn't made any noise about this. This has not been headline news anywhere, really. Why isn't Priti Patel talking about this? Why is it that she's not talking about this on Sky News and the BBC and CNN?
She didn't want it. She didn't want it released a year ago, and so it's
crazy.
It's as far as she's concerned, she didn't want it out there, and it's out there now because it had to be brought out. But actually, it's embarrassing because it counters the narrative of successive governments.
Yeah, I mean, look, Priti Patel, she says this paper demonstrates how difficult it has been to draw conclusions about the characteristics of offenders. But that's unacceptable. I mean, I'll give the last word to you, Rehana. What does Priti Patel need to do? What do you want her to do in order to redress this narrative that really is confusing the average person on the street?
There's not one thing actually that can be done now, and that's the problem with letting the genie out of the bag. In terms of the damage, and I've talked about it before, but we're not even talking about self-esteem and all of those kind of things. Do you remember the discussions about deportations? You remember the discussions about stripping people of their nationalities? All of these things, othering us, as British citizens, or essentially telling us that we can never be British citizens, comes as a result of this. So, I mean, I would like an apology. It won't happen. And I would like really firm, continuous statements about, about the fact that they got it wrong and that this is not the way that we should talk about people. But I won't hold my breath.
All right, Rihanna, Peter, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Great to hear and see you both on the radio and online as well. And do stay safe, and love to the families as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Rihanna and Peter. Take care, listeners. This has been Friday Night Live with Abdul Akbar and Zaffar Balsab. That's it for this week's show. We'll be back next week. Take care. Take care of yourselves, your families, and your loved ones. We'll see you soon. Stay indoors if you can. Take care.
Assalamu alaikum.